We are 1 week away from the LA Kings opening up rookie camp. We'll talk about the key young players, most of whom will be at rookie camp that could have an impact with the Kings, if not this season, then in the near future, on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We would love for you to leave us a positive comment on Apple Podcasts if you're a fan of the show. And we are on YouTube. Please like and subscribe if you are enjoying this content. I'm Eddie Garcia, your host of Locked On LA Kings. I worked in sports media for the past 30 years, 20 plus years at the Fox Sports Radio Network. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast. It's a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the last 17 years and a passionate LA Kings fan for 30 years. This episode of Locked On LA Kings is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/lockedon or enter the promo code LOCKEDONNHL for a free water bottle with your order. You won't want to take your Birddogs off, we promise you. We are 1 week away from the start of LA Kings rookie camp, not to be confused with the start of training camp or development camp we had this past July. Development camp is gathering of Kings young players in the organization and recent draft picks for about a week. It's a bit more informal. They have drills. There is some coaching, but it's more like a orientation into what pro hockey is all about. It's loosely structured, a little bit informal. There's some coaching and drills, like I said, but more of just a let's all get together and get to know each other and give you a little taste of the organization. Training camp is when the NHL rostered players get together and start to prepare for the upcoming regular season with a few special young players in the mix. As for rookie camp, it's a bit more intense than development camp, basically like training camp, but for the Kings' younger players who are under contract with the organization and could play a role with the NHL team this season or in the near future. Now, there is also a big rookie tournament coming up for these players at rookie camp to compete in, and we will give you the details on that a little bit later if you don't know about that. Also, rookie camp is a little bit of a misnomer. The players at rookie camp aren't necessarily rookies. They aren't in their first year, that is to say, playing in the Kings organization, which is normally what you think a rookie is all about. These players, it refers to if they played at the NHL level, they would most likely be rookies, but there's a little bit of not 100% with that as well, which we'll explain as we go along. Now, we've talked about some of these players during our offseason shows, but certainly now that rookie camp's about to get going and we're going to be reporting on rookie camp, we want to give you an idea about some of the players that you should be listening for, or if you're able to watch some of the games that are going to be streaming, which we'll tell you about later, you can look out for some of those players. So we've talked about some of these guys before, but not kind of in this context of them all being together and getting together and being on the ice and kind of how they're going to play together. So the good news is for the Kings, and we talked about this a bit on Monday's episode when we talked about the Kings prospect pool rankings. The Kings don't really have many rookies that are set to play key roles with the team this season. And that's a good thing. It means that our roster is pretty much set with players that have seen significant time in the NHL. And that said, it doesn't mean there aren't a few rookies or young players that couldn't play an important role this season or in the near future. Now, normally when you think of talking about young players, you usually would say, well, we'll start with the forwards, but we're not going to do that here. We'll talk about the forwards, but not to start off. And that's because the Kings' better prospects, young players right at the moment are on the defensive side. Their top young player is a defenseman, and that is Brant Clarke. And of course, the focus will be on Brant Clarke, frankly, just like it was last year during rookie camp. But the 20-year-old former first-round pick got a taste of the NHL last season, 9 games. Remember, the talk last year around this time was, could Brant Clarke actually make the roster? We all thought, I think, realistically, that the Kings wouldn't do that. They didn't want to burn a year of his entry-level contract for someone who probably wasn't going to be in the lineup day in and day out. So he, in fact, did end up going back to his junior team after a little stint with the Kings, after a little stint with the Ontario Reign, and after a stint with Team Canada where he won a gold medal in the World Junior Championships. But all eyes will be on Brant Clarke, especially at rookie camp. He should be, without question, the best player taking the ice at rookie camp and one of the top players that'll be involved in the rookie faceoff coming up as well. But the question is, where is Brant Clarke going to start the season? Will it be in the NHL, competing for one of the third pairing defensive spots on the right side, or will it be in the AHL? Well, there are a couple of reasons why that is a question. Number one, there really isn't a rush to get Brant Clarke in with the LA Kings. Like I said, even if he does make the roster, barring any injuries, we know the Kings' top two pairings are set with Drew Doughty and Mikey Anderson on the top pairing, Vladislav Gavrikov and Matt Roy on the second pairing. The third pairing, though, is where the opportunity lies, and it could be, and I think it will be eventually, Brant Clarke. I actually think it'll be the start of the season, but that is to be determined. That is not proven yet. The second reason why there's really no rush on Brant Clarke is that Jordan Spence is available to play that position, but we'll get more into him in a second. Right now, as far as Brant Clarke is concerned, if you don't know, dynamic offensive defenseman who can ease into the lineup on the third pairing. So again, it's not a situation where the Kings are desperate for talent that they need to get into the lineup and they got to rush a guy and play him in a spot where maybe he's not ready for. Brant Clarke, I believe, is NHL ready, if not right away, very soon. And they can put him on the third pairing. His minutes obviously won't be as pronounced as, some other players who other teams have to plug in young, talented guys like him and put him in more of an important role, put more pressure and responsibility on him. The Kings are going to be able to kind of ease him into the lineup. And I think he'll be there opening night. Also, I think the one thing, though, that maybe is a factor in having him start the year in the AHL would be him running a power play. We know that Sean Durzee's gone, traded in the offseason. He was the quarterback on that second power play unit. Brant Clarke can very capably play that role, but he's never done it at the NHL level. Maybe getting him at the AHL level, having him run a number one power play unit for a while, get him used to that. Maybe that helps him to come in and quarterback that second power play unit for the LA Kings, but that's something we'll figure out. Obviously, he's going to be on the top power play unit as far as rookie camp goes. And then we'll see in training camp him on that, I'm sure, sharing time on that second power play unit. But that could be a reason why you might want to ease him in a little bit into the NHL lineup, give him a little bit more experience, because he will, while he's on the third pairing, and I'm not saying that isn't important, but not as important, running the second power play unit, that's a pretty big responsibility. So that could be a reason why they might want to send Brant Clarke to the AHL for a little bit, get him used to running a power play at the professional level, and then maybe bring him up to the NHL levels. We shall see. I still think Brant Clarke is going to be on the Kings opening night roster. I think he's going to be on the third pairing on that right side on opening night. But again, that's an opinion. That is not a factor. Still some things to be ironed out and see how he does in rookie camp and in training camp. So as I mentioned, like I said, the Kings could be patient with Brant Clarke if they want to. And that most of that is because of Jordan Spence. And he's one of those guys who technically is not a rookie. He's played 30 NHL games. If you've played 25 NHL games, you're no longer considered a rookie, or you're in your rookie season. So he has seen a little bit of NHL time, but not really a first-year player, I guess would be a better way of putting it. But realistically, he still is. He hasn't seen a ton of NHL action. But, he was a fourth-round pick in 2019, wasn't thought to be a big-time prospect like Brant Clarke, but Spence has worked hard, has developed surprisingly quickly, has turned into a solid puck-moving offensive defenseman, a little bit smaller than Clarke. Spence is 5'10", Clarke 6'2", but they do have a similar skill set. Both are offensively minded. Both can run a second power play unit. So Spence has done that, the number one power play unit with the Ontario Reign in the AHL. So he's got a little bit more of a higher level experience in running a power play. So maybe that gives him the edge going into the season, and maybe that gives him the nod as that right side defenseman on the third pairing. We'll see. But again, Spence is going to get his chance, I think. And at least, he's certainly an option for the LA Kings if they feel like Brant Clarke maybe isn't ready at the start of the season, and a pretty good option. Same situation, though, as Clarke. Young guy, is still skilled enough that you put him in there. He's going to give you some offense on that third pairing, but you don't have to play him in a role that he's uncomfortable in, but he would be that quarterback on that second power play unit. Now, I wonder if the Kings might consider, and I don't think they will, but maybe would you play Clarke and Spence together on that third pairing, move Spence over to the left side, or maybe Clarke over to the left side? I don't know who would be more versatile in doing that, but I don't know that you want to have two offensive defensemen, two similar types of players, but they are, if you're going to just go by skill set, I would say that of the players the Kings are considering playing on that third pairing, that those are your top two talented players. I don't think the Kings will do that. I think they want to have left-handed shots on the left side, right-handed shots on the right side, but it's something that you could keep an eye on. Also, another thing with Jordan Spence, if Brant Clarke turns out to be the player we all think he's going to be, then Spence is kind of a luxury. He's an option, but he's a good young player that has upside, and other teams would be interested in him. It's a possibility maybe later in the year when the Kings are looking to upgrade at a position of need, or if there's some injury in the forward positions or something, maybe they would look at Jordan Spence as a trade chip to move and acquire something of need. But it's something to think about. But a couple of really good young defensemen on the right side in Brant Clarke and Jordan Spence. And we're going to talk more about the young defense for the LA Kings. We will do that in just a minute here on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, today's episode of Locked On LA Kings brought to you by Birddogs. What are Birddogs, you ask? Well, Birddogs are shorts and pants with the underwear built in. They call them liners, but you get the idea. And you may ask yourself, why would anyone want to do that? Why would anyone want to wear shorts or pants that have a liner in them instead of wearing the underwear? Well, the answer is pretty simple, actually. It's because they are super comfortable. And guess what? They look great as well. And honestly, how often does something that looks good really feel good as well? They are the perfect combination. Not only do Birddogs look good, but feel good. You could wear them out to a nice casual dinner, but they're so comfortable that you could work out in them as well. Maybe do yard work around the house, whatever it is. You can be active in them is the point. And once you try them, you're going to wonder why you had never heard of these before. Go to birddogs.com/lockedonnhl, and when you enter the promo code LOCKEDONNHL, they'll throw in a free water bottle. So again, that is birddogs.com, birddogs.com. Enter the promo code LOCKEDONNHL for your free gift. So more on the Kings' young defensive core, and while Clarke and Spence are clearly the top two rookies or young players on the blue line, there are some other young defensemen to talk about, and one of them could be the best option on the left side on that third pairing for the LA Kings, and that is former first-round pick Tobias Bjornfot. The 22-year-old has played 116 NHL games for LA, so not really a rookie, but 70 games 2 years ago, and then just 10 games last season. He did get in those 70 games, mostly due to injury. But I've said this about Tobias Bjornfot before, and it sounds like I'm critiquing him or slighting him, but I'm really not. You don't really notice him on the ice. He doesn't do a lot, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because it also means he's not making mistakes. You notice a defenseman when they turn the puck over, when they make bad decisions, when they pinch in at the wrong time and leads to an odd man rush. He doesn't do that. Very solid defensively. Now, he gives you next to nothing offensively. But if you were to pair him with a Brant Clarke on the third pairing, Clarke or Jordan Spence, they take care of the offensive side of things. And all Bjornfot has to do is play solid, reliable defense. And I think he's shown the ability to be able to do that. And again, a former first-round pick. So maybe that's somebody that they want to kind of give the benefit of the doubt to. Now, there is the thought that Bjornfot will be in a battle during the preseason with another new player for the Kings. His name is Andreas Englund. They got him from the Blackhawks. Now, he's 27 years old, but he has played 25 fewer games than Bjornfot. So the NHL experience goes to Bjornfot. Englund is bigger, supposedly more physical. So there's that side of the game that Bjornfot really doesn't have. But I think it's Bjornfot's job to lose because I said of the investment the Kings made in him, spending a first-round pick on him, and the fact that he does have some more NHL experience. But will be interesting to see as far as how that battle goes on the left side on the third pairing for the LA Kings. One of the few roster spots that appears to be up for grabs going into rookie camp and in training camp. And it'll be interesting to see if Jordan Spence and or Tobias Bjornfot are at rookie camp, even though They both have some NHL experience, but they could also basically use some more time, ice time, as well. So not sure if they're going to be at rookie camp or not, but it's possible that they could be there. One more defenseman to keep an eye on before we transition over to the forwards, and that would be Cole Krieger. Now, he has yet to make his NHL debut, but he's actually older than both Brandt Clarke and Jordan Spence and Tobias Bjornfoot. He played 5 seasons at Michigan State. He's 23 years old, did get a little taste of pro hockey in the AHL with the Ontario Reign last season, played 8 games after his collegiate career came to an end. He is a left shot, so there's a chance that he could be in the mix with Tobias Bjornfoot and Andreas Englund, but he's a guy that the Kings haven't gotten a lot of look at as far as him competing with some of the guys on the roster. So an outside shot, I would say, for him, but a guy to keep an eye on at rookie camp. Cole Krieger, defenseman out of Michigan State. All right, we've looked at the defense, and that's where the strength lies as far as the younger players for the LA Kings, but we need to check in on the forwards as well. And while there are some options available for some of the younger guys on the Kings blue line, not sure that's going to be the case, though, for the LA Kings. We know that the Kings' top 3 lines are set as far as who those 9 forwards are going to be. The line combinations could fluctuate, but you've got Anze Kopitar, Adrian Kempe, Quinton Byfield, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Kevin Fiala, Victor Arvidsson, Philip Deneau, Trevor Moore, and Arthur Kaliyev, I think, are your top 9 forwards, and I think that's pretty much set in stone. The fourth line will have Blake Lizotte at center. And then who will be the wingers on that fourth line? Well, you've got Carl Grundstrom, you've got Jared Anderson-Dolan, you've got Trevor Lewis. Those will be your front runners at that position. And you could argue, as far as talking about and critiquing rookie players or young players for the Kings, that Quinton Byfield and Arthur Kaliyev are still very young players for the Kings. And certainly both those guys have something to prove this year, but I think they're locks to be on the NHL roster for the LA Kings. Byfield just turned 21. He's got 99 NHL games under his belt. Kaliyev is 22, 137 games for him at the NHL level. The only other player I could see having maybe an outside chance at making the roster, and it's an outside chance, and that would be 22-year-old Alex Turcotte. Now, like Byfield and Kaliyev, former first-round pick, you probably know he has had a lot of bad luck in his young pro career with injury issues that has hurt his development. That said, the Kings did invest a first-round pick in him, 5th overall in 2019. His rookie deal is up after the season. Will be a restricted free agent. He is a talented all-around player and has some grit to his game as well, which the Kings are lacking a bit in their forward group. And while having a first-round pick on your fourth line might not be ideal, for Alex Turcotte, it would be a huge step in the right direction in his development. Turcotte is certainly one of the forwards to keep an eye on at rookie camp. Likely get an invite to training camp as well. I still don't see him cracking the Kings lineup, even if he had a huge training camp, because he just needs to get a full professional season under his belt, I would say, before the Kings really give him a good look. Now, he is still on that rookie contract, so he is waiver exempt. So the Kings, if he were to go to the AHL and have a great first half of the season, maybe we could see him in the second half of the LA Kings. But that remains to be seen. For Alex Turcotte, it's stay healthy, stay on the ice, then be productive, and then maybe he gets a chance to show what he can do with the LA Kings. If there are some injury issues with the Kings at the forward position this year, then it would open the door for somebody like an Alex Turcotte and maybe another player that has gotten a little bit of a taste of the NHL, and that is Samuel Fagemo. Remember we had the Victor Arvidsson injury going into last season coming off the back surgery. And so we thought maybe he'd miss some decent time at the start of the season. And so Samuel Fagemo got some playing time with the Kings in the preseason, playing on the second line. He did appear in 9 NHL games for the Kings. He's 23 years old, a second-round pick in 2019. The Kings seem to like his skill set and have given him a little extra attention, it seems, recently. So Samuel Fagemo is another guy to keep an eye on. But like I said, unless there are some significant injury issues in the forward core, probably not going to see much of him at the NHL level, but could be a guy in the near future for the LA Kings in probably their bottom 6 role. Some other forwards to keep an eye on at rookie camp, but are still, I'm sure, a season or 2 away from being LA Kings. Alexis Laferriere, he's 21 years old, 3rd-round pick in 2020, played 2 years at Harvard and then joined the Reign for 4 games last season. Francesco Pinelli, the guy I'm really excited to see, 20 years old, second-round pick in 2021. Huge season in the OHL last season, 41 goals, 90 points. He is a young, dynamic player, but needs some more seasoning. Martin Chromiak's 21 years old, fifth-round pick in 2020, had 44 goals and 86 points in the OHL season before last. Last year was his first season with the Ontario Reign, and unfortunately had some injury issues and some illness issues that hampered his first pro season, but looking for him to have a big, strong second season of pro hockey in the LA Kings organization. We still have one more player to talk about, and when it's all said and done, he could end up being a more impactful player than even Brant Clarke. That's next on Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Hey, check out Locked On NHL. They will give you the latest news and notes from around the National Hockey League. Plus, they're doing their team-by-team previews for the upcoming season as well. That is Locked On NHL on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So we've talked about some young players for the Kings on the blue line, talked about a group of forwards, but we haven't talked about a young player in net for the LA Kings. And there's really only one young player for the Kings to talk about, and that is Erik Portillo, 23-year-old from Sweden. Had a very accomplished 3-year career at the University of Michigan, one of the top collegiate programs in the country. He backstopped the Wolverines to a pair of appearances in the Frozen Four. That's the national semifinals. Kings picked him up in a trade with Buffalo last year when Portillo made it clear that he had no interest in signing with the Sabres. Portillo is currently the future in net for the LA Kings, but that's kind of by default. He does have a good resume, and we're looking forward to seeing what he can do in his first full pro season with the LA Kings. But all the other goalies right now on the Kings roster, including a guy they just picked up the other day, are all in their 30s. Cam Talbot is 36-year-old coming over in his first season with the LA Kings. David Rittich and Phoenix Copley are both 31 years old. And the Kings did pick up 32-year-old JF Berube, signing him to a professional tryout contract to provide maybe some depth in the organization. He was originally a 4th-round pick of the LA Kings back in 2009, left and bounced around in a few other places, now is back in the Kings organization. But clearly, Erik Portillo is the only long-term solution the Kings have in their organization at the moment as far as the goaltending position. Now, I would expect to see him get the bulk of the starts in Ontario as he transitions into his professional career. But again, that's my thinking on it. And that, whoever's going to serve as the backup, likely David Rittich, would be there to provide some mentoring and to be the emergency goalie for the Kings if there is some short-term illness or injury to either Phoenix Copley or Cam Talbot. I think pretty clearly Erik Portillo, again, for a variety of reasons. Part of it is his resume and what he's done at the lower levels. And part of it is because, again, the Kings, all the other goaltenders are veteran guys. Clearly, I think Erik Portillo is the current future in net for the LA Kings. I'm really, really curious to see how his first season of professional hockey goes with the LA Kings, because, like I said, he could be a guy sooner rather than later in net in LA, because all the Kings goaltenders, other than him, are signed to 1-year deals. So Cam Talbot, David Rittich, Phoenix Copley, they're all either need to be re-signed or will be going elsewhere after this coming season. Erik Portillo is signed for multiple seasons going forward. So again, the future in net for the LA Kings right now, clearly Erik Portillo. So I mentioned earlier that obviously rookie camp is 1 week from today. The following day after rookie camp opens, it's Friday, September 15th, is the rookie face-off in Las Vegas. Now, if you don't know what this is, it's kind of a mini tournament. Not every team plays each other, but you got a handful of teams in the western part of the U.S. I believe it's Kings, Ducks, Avalanche, Golden Knights, Sharks, and maybe the Kraken are involved as well. We'll play each other. Arizona also is involved in this. So the Kings have 3 games against rookies from some of the other organizations. First one will be on Friday, September 15th. That is against the Sharks. Saturday, the 16th, Kings take on the Coyotes. And Monday, the 18th of September, It's the Kings against the Ducks. From what I understand, and if you happen to be someone who's interested in attending the rookie tournament, from what I understand, the Vegas Golden Knights season ticket holders are getting first crack at the tickets for this. And I'm sure they'll all be in attendance for, the Vegas Golden Knights games. But you'll have to look into getting tickets for this if you want to attend. If you want to watch it, it is possible. And I did reach out to friend of the show, Jared Shaffrin, the Ontario Reign manager of communications and content. He did confirm these games in the rookie face-off will be streamed online for you to watch if you would like to. Now, these are all afternoon games, so if you're working, that could be difficult. So if you can't watch, or maybe if you're not even interested in watching, I will be watching these, and we will be reporting on a lot of the players we talked about in today's show, telling you how they're doing. If any other players stand out, step up and show themselves, we'll certainly report on how they do as well. But again, coming up 1 week and 1 day from today, it is the rookie face-off in Las Vegas. LA Kings rookies getting a shot to show what they can do. Brant Clarke will be at this, and we will definitely tell you how, again, all the Kings prospects, especially the guys we talked about today, do in that rookie tournament. Before we go, another day of not knowing where the Kings games will be on TV this coming season. The Kings open up the preseason with a pair of games over in Australia in a couple of weeks, just over 2 weeks from now. And I don't know where those games are going to be on television as well. I am assuming that those games will be on TV, and I think probably the most logical place would be the NHL Network. But when you have a special global series that the NHL is putting on, and they're talking about how this is the first NHL games being played in the Southern Hemisphere, it's a little bit bigger deal than it might be otherwise. So as soon as I find out, I've sent a few messages out there asking where these games are going to be able to be watched. As soon as I find out, I will be able to let you know as well. So for you everydayers, those of you that listen and watch every day, coming up on tomorrow's show, it's another Kings fan feedback show. Your chance to comment or ask questions on anything and everything going on with the LA Kings as we get closer and closer to the season. It does feel different this week doing these shows, knowing that we're going to actually see players on the ice for the LA Kings wearing LA Kings uniforms in the very, very near future. If you want to send an email for the feedback show, it is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, lockedoneddie@gmail.com. And of course, you can leave your comments if you're watching on YouTube in the comment section below. We would love for you to stay interactive with the show by following us on Twitter and Instagram. We are at Locked On LA Kings. And since we're back to doing a show 5 days a week, if you have your friends that are Kings fans, you want to turn them onto the show, we would appreciate you with word of mouth, letting them know about Locked On LA Kings. I'm Eddie Garcia. Thank you as always for listening and watching this episode of Locked On LA Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow. And as always, go Kings go.